how we live our lives in the conventional, everyday kind of world of sight, sounds, the senses and mind, as the Buddha added. But there's also another reality that was called the ultimate reality, or ultimate truth. So I'm going to explore this, and then talk about why it's important, why this, how this can help us awaken, and how this can help us reduce stress and distress and so on in our lives. So the Buddha differentiated between these two realities, what he called relative or conventional reality or truth, Sakka, and the ultimate truth, Paramata, in Pali. So it asserts that the conventional reality is not the total picture, that there's something beyond the everyday conventional reality. There's an ultimate truth that lies beyond what we can comprehend with our limited perceptions and with our language, our concepts. So it can't be comprehended in the usual way that human beings comprehend things, knowledge. And this is where spiritual practices such as meditation come in, because you can't access it with the perceptions that you have. Right? We have certain perceptions of sight, taste, and mind. So we have these very powerful perceptions, but they won't get you there in terms of touching and knowing the ultimate reality. And so we meditate, and this is really similar. I did a bit more digging on this this week. The whole field of quantum mechanics kind of fascinates me, and of course I'm not the only one, because there seem to be more and more books out there where they're talking about the similarities between what physics researchers are theorizing, at least, and what the Buddha said. And quantum mechanics basically said that there's something beyond the classical or conventional world. There's a reality that lies beyond that they call the quantum realm. So you could see this as very similar to what the Buddha called the ultimate realm. And there's so quantum mechanics deals with studying, the subatomic and subatomic level, right? And it's got different theories, but one theory that's really interesting is entanglement. If you've come across that one, entanglement states that I'll have to read this that the properties of two particles can become connected in such a way that the state of one particle affects the state of another particle, even when they're very far apart. When I first heard that, I thought, oh, wow, this is interesting. Talk about interconnecting. We've got two particles that aren't even close to each other, and change in one affects a particle that's quite far away. So in quantum mechanics, they say there's these two truths that are always operating. And there's a reality that's fundamentally different from what we perceive with our senses. So the more you kind of read this, you kind of go, that sounds an awful lot like what the Buddha found, using a totally different method of investigation. He was, using very much an inward looking method, and looking at his, direct experience. What happens when I just keep looking and looking at my direct experience? Get out of the world of concepts, because as I said, you can't get it with concepts, and just keep moving beyond and beyond that. So it's important. Understanding this conceptually is actually helpful, and I'll tell you why. Nagarjuna, who spoke a lot about these two realities, talked about how important knowledge of both were. He said, without a foundation in the conventional truth, the significance of the ultimate cannot be taught. Without understanding the significance of the ultimate, liberation is not achieved. So it's crucial to understand both realities. And you can see the Buddha taught in both realities. A lot of people say, the Buddha always taught to the person or people that he had in front of him, which I think is true. So he would speak at the level of the person. So if it's a new practitioner, he doesn't jump right into, talking about ultimate truth. He would talk about, ethical sila, ethical behavior, and, the elements of the Eightfold Path. But if you really look, it's not always the case. He actually spoke at both conventional truth and ultimate truth to very different audiences. He'll have a very advanced disciple, practitioner, and he'll still talk about at the conventional truth level. So that understanding of both, for me, is really becoming more and more important in my life and in my practice. When we start, for many people that I come across, we start with this craving almost to connect with the ultimate, right? It's a craving, and we want to connect with this ultimate truth. In many ways, we want to connect with it because we want to get out of all the chaos and confusion of the conventional, the suffering that's occurring in the conventional. So we might want to try to bypass the personal realm, the conventional reality, right? Try to bypass it and go get to that, get me the good stuff, and then I don't have to deal with all this crap. I don't have to deal with all the difficult emotions and painful emotions, difficult situations, difficult people, and this is sometimes called spiritual bypassing, where we're using our practice to try to bypass the conventional world. So just be aware of that's something, kind of a warning, to be lookout for that if that's something that arises in your practice. And this teaching of the two truths can really help you understand that you're working in both realities all the time. All the time. As our practice matures, we see that both truths are equally true. We call them conventional truth. You can say there's conventional, it's an illusion, and I'll talk about why that, but it's still a truth. And at the same time, an illusion. There's a parable from the sutras that I think illustrates this somewhat. You've probably heard the parable of the blind men and the elephant. There's a group of blind men, and they've heard that there's this new animal in town that nobody's experienced. And so they want to check out the form of this new animal. So they bring an elephant, and didn't know what it was. It was just this new animal. And they touch this elephant. One touches his ear and says, "Oh, this animal's like a fan." Another one touches the leg and says, "Oh, this animal's like a post." Another one touches the side and says, "Oh, this animal's like a wall." Another one, touches the tusk and says, "This animal's like a spear," and on and on and on. And they really say, they're very certain that this is what this animal is, and they actually get in some arguments defending their perception of what they've just experienced through touch. So the story is useful in a couple of ways. One, it illustrates the two truth principle quite well. It shows that how each person's perception of truth is limited and partial. That was one of the teachings that was coming across in this. So the blind men represent the individuals in the story who only touch a part. So they're only experiencing a part of reality based on their limited perception. So their descriptions are not the whole truth. It's not the ultimate truth. It's just a partial truth. So they argue, and, my perception's right, and you must be wrong because, I touched it and it fell like a wall. And the elephant represents ultimate truth in this parable. And the blind men, with their limited perception, can never experience fully understand the elephant and therefore ultimate truth. So it's a parable that story that's often told, and different people have different ideas of what the story means. But I think it does point to these two truths. So let me just define the two truths quickly, then I'll get into why they're important. Conventional truth just refers to our everyday understanding of things, right? It's our the things we need to navigate the world or to organize ourselves in the world. That's that conventional. It's sometimes called relative truth. We use concepts, language as part of it to navigate the world. It's our conventional reality, our ordinary way, you could say, of being in the world. It's all very dualistic, right? It's got a lot of dualistic concepts. It's full of us, them, this, that. And so that's where the word non-dual comes from. It's representing ultimate truth. It's not dualistic. It's non-dual. It's verbal and conceptual. And because it's based on concepts, a concept is static, right? It's kind of frozen, freezes something, and makes it look permanent, right? It's static, permanent, independent. When you put a concept on it, it seems very real and very static, unchanging. So the concepts and designations that we use, we need to navigate the world, right? As I said, but they do place a kind of a shroud of illusion over what's actually there. They make things look static, independent, with a self nature, as the Buddha would say, which kind of points to the independent, permanent nature. And these are all the, we really say the laws of physics and biology and chemistry. That's all part of the conventional world. So I think the key part here is that it's conceptual, which then freezes things in time. And you can say, oh, my neck. There is no neck. You only experience neck as a sensation. The direct experience is, there's tingling here in the body, but there's no neck. Neck is just a conceptual designation that we give it so that we can talk about the neck. You couldn't go to your physiotherapist if you didn't say, I've got a pain in my neck. If you went and said, well, I've got this tingling in the body, then where is it? Well, there is no neck, so I can't say it's in the neck. So you need those conventions, right, in order to work, to operate. But at an ultimate level, there's no neck. So to think that there is a neck, or a body for that matter, is an illusion. So there's nothing wrong with the concepts and the conventional reality. It's all very fine, all on its own. But it's when we think it's the ultimate truth of the way things actually are that it becomes illusion. It's shrouding, veiling the ultimate truth. So we really get stuck, right? We get stuck in this notion that conventional truth is it. And Vipassana, or insight meditation, of course, is clearly seeing through that. Right? We do this insight meditation, which is in Vipassana, which translates to clearly seeing, to see through that veil of the conventional, to actually see what's behind to see the ultimate reality. So ultimate truth is the ultimate nature of reality, beyond our limited perceptions and concepts. It's like the quantum reality, to use the physics term, beyond dualism. Mahayana, they might call it emptiness. Thich Nhat Hanh might call it interbeing. There's different words, but it's this notion that there's an ultimate truth that underlies the everyday, ordinary world that we experience through our senses. The ultimate reality, all phenomenon experiences is empty of an inherent existence. It's impermanent, it's dependent, it's always in flux. So it's quite different than how we ordinarily think of reality. It's non-conceptual. Like Arjuna again said, that to which language refers is denied. So language doesn't help us. Even though I'm giving you a lot of words here, ultimately it's not helpful. I can describe it, but I can't actually get you to experience it until you actually do the practices. So why is this important? This is sort of the key part of what I want to get at. Why is understanding the two truths help us awaken? And how does it help us in our daily lives? Right? And understanding it beyond understanding it is just a theory. To deeply feeling and dwelling in that ultimate reality, which is behind all the noise of conventional reality. Before I get into this, just another little warning. We can get attached to ultimate reality. There's attachment again, right? So it's vital that we don't get kind of stuck on the level of emptiness, of ultimate reality. Nagarjuna again said that while attachment to relative truth is a problem, people who are attached to emptiness are hopeless. I thought that was, he's got another one that, was it, those who believe in emptiness are incorrigible. Translated as incorrigible. So he really emphasized the dangers of becoming attached to emptiness and just wanting to dwell there. You experience that peace and tranquility, bliss, and that's all you want, right? I'm going to the mountain, and this is what I want. I'm attached. And he actually said to the idea of emptiness as well. So it's not just attached to the byproducts of experiencing it, but attached to the idea of it. Those who believe in emptiness are incorrigible. So the word belief is key there. So how does seeing the two truth help us live constructive, ethical lives? So when we realize that our everyday experience of the world is illusory and not the complete picture, we operate in a different way in that conventional reality. Right? We let go of the belief that we're a separate self. The concept of self dissolves, is transcended, falls away. And when that concept of a separate self falls away, we no longer believe that we need to control or that we can control what's happening in the conventional reality around us. We no longer struggle with what's unfolding moment by moment by moment. And you can do this in your meditation. You notice when you're sitting, so it happened here in this meditation, struggle ended. And when struggle ends, ultimate truth just simply it reveals itself. It's because it's always there. It's not like you have to find it. It's always there. So it's and of course words kept coming out of my mouth. Not sure what I said actually, but words were coming, and yeah. So when the struggle, we stop struggling with the present moment. Then the deeper level of ultimate truth reveals itself, and we suffer less. And when the more we dwell in that true nature, the more we realize that the relative and the conventional, the conventional and the ultimate are one. That they're not actually two truths. So then we're able to discern what actions in the world are wholesome and skillful, to use the Buddha's words, and which are not. So this movement of compassion and wisdom kind of become fused. The two wings of the bird now flies. There's the compassion and the wisdom are fused, and we operate in the world in a way that displays that fusion of compassion and wisdom for the benefit of ourselves, of others, of the planet, of all beings. There's another quote I really love. The late Korean Zen master Sung San talked about the importance of fusing the conventional and ultimate truth. And it's in his, I say, famous saying, there's no right and no wrong. Everything is essentially empty. But right is right and wrong is wrong. Very Zen, eh? There's no right, there's no wrong, because everything is essentially empty, but right is right and wrong is wrong. So the first part of the statement is reference to ultimate truth, right? He's saying that it's the ultimate nature of things is emptiness. So there's no right and wrong. The second part of the statement refers to conventional truth, where he says, but right is right and wrong is wrong, is a reference to that truth, to the way things appear in our everyday experience. And from this perspective, there is right and wrong. There's another story just occurred to me. The guy who was it was a businessman, a merchant, was pissed at the Buddha because his son was spent all day meditating. I can kind of relate to this story a little bit. And so he went to the Buddha and he spat in his face. Have people heard this story? And the Buddha said, "I forgive you," and it just didn't do anything. And then the man laughed, and he felt really bad that he spat in the face of the Buddha. I guess you would. And he ruminated about it. He thought, I've got to go apologize. That wasn't the right thing to do. And he went and he says, you didn't think it was a problem, but I'm sorry for spitting in your face. And he says, yes, what you did was wrong, and you should not do things. And the guy went, but yesterday you said it didn't matter. And so he displayed the ultimate truth one moment, and the next time the guy came, he displayed the conventional truth. So to me, that was another teaching on the two truths doctrine, or I like to call it principle. So I mentioned the two wings of the bird. I say that a lot, the combining of the wisdom and the compassion, so we don't get lost in one or the other. It's a total integration of the two. The movement of compassion and wisdom are fused. They're constantly operating in an integrated way. another quote that I think is really helpful from Padmasambhavana, also known as Guru Rinpoche, or Precious Guru. He's the one who brought Buddhism to Tibet in the 8th century, so pretty important in terms of the history, and really developed Vajrayana Buddhism in Tibet. He said, his statement is, though the view should be as vast as the sky, keep your conduct as fine as barley flour. Though your view should be as vast as the sky, keep your conduct as fine as barley flour. So again, he's talking about having the view of ultimate truth and acting in the world from conventional truth. So the view, he's talking about, referring to ultimate truth, as vast as the sky. So this refers to the idea of ultimate truth being limitless and all-encompassing, like the sky is. And then conduct is the conventional truth, the way we live in accordance with the conventions of society and, ethical conduct more than society, should be as fine as barley flour. So this means our conduct should be precise, conscious, diligent, just like you would grind barley flour. So in other words, he's saying that it's important that we have an understanding of both the conventional reality and the ultimate reality. And I think in our, as I said at the outset, the way to understand ultimate reality is not by listening to me talk about it, although that understanding can be helpful, because you can go, okay, my spiritual practice, I get what I'm supposed to be doing, I guess, if there is any doing. I get what the practice is getting at. This notion of touching, tasting reality that's beyond what I can know through my senses, including the mind. So it's beyond what you can know with the mind. I guess that's why my teacher told me to stop reading so many books to find ultimate truth, right? I was looking in probably the last place that it would be. You want to learn about the non-conceptual reality, probably reading a lot of concepts isn't the way to do it, but I didn't realize that at the time. I thought I was, getting closer by accumulating more and more book knowledge about it. So it's the practice of dwelling in a place that goes unnoticed throughout the day. Right? When you're in your day and you're doing stuff and you're in the conventional world, I know most people in this group are very successful at navigating the conventional reality. We've got lots of very effective and successful people in this Sangha. And that's where we dwell. So this is an invitation to step back from that and perhaps see if we can dwell in the unnoticed